3, 2, 1.
Now I had to do one with my phone because that's a thing I do.
Okay. There we go. You go for that aerial look. Welcome to Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons, joined today by Tiffany Ball,
Hi,
Grand Dame of Theater for Students in the tri-state or here in Evansville. How are you doing, Tiffany?
Doing great. Thank you so much.
You're a difficult get because you're so busy. You know, I
Yes.
messaged you and it was during Titanic. I thought, well, maybe she'll have 10 minutes to come over, you know, and obviously I appreciate you coming here now.
I appreciate that
We can
very
talk
much.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So for those who don't know, Tiffany Ball you've been involved with theater probably your whole life, right?
Indeed.
In Evansville.
Yeah, in Evansville. My mom and dad are Jack and Sue Schreiber, who have been in the theater community for as long as I know. I started going to theater when I was 5 with my mom going to rehearsals. And then, you know, I grew up in that industry and went to school for that in college and then traveled around the country and did it for about 10 years. Did it professionally around the country and then came back home to have a family.
Yeah. So that's what brought you home, having a family.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Well, well, you've pushed it way ahead.
I'm so
here.
sorry.
No, that's all right. So when was your first time on stage then? What was the first thing you did?
Probably in high school.
Yeah?
Well, really, maybe at U of E when my mom was doing one of the stepsisters in Cinderella, and I was one of the townspeople in the town of where Cinderella.
Right, just somebody in the background.
Yeah,
up
just
there.
a background kind of kid.
Do you think you caught the theater bug, or was it just something you did because they couldn't get a babysitter, or what?
Well, I think
How
it's
did that
probably a
work?
little bit of all the things. You know, when you grow up in a theater, and when you grow up in a family that's in this world, this theater world, it just kind of lands itself where it needs to. I landed on stage for high school, and then when I got to college, you know, things kind of changed for me a little bit. And
Yeah.
somebody said, "You seem to be really organized. Maybe you should be a stage manager." And I was like, "I don't know what that means, but okay, I'll try it out." And that's where I've landed. So.
Does that mean that actors and actresses tend not to be very organized?
That's not necessarily true, but some of them, you know, it takes a stage manager with a different kind of mind to do that kind of work.
A lot of logistics and a lot of
Indeed.
moving parts, as it
Indeed.
turns out. Yeah.
Indeed.
So talk about that a little bit. When you were in college, then did you stage manage? Did you get that opportunity?
I did. I became one of the main stage managers for the USI Theater Department. I was one of the first 10 theater students in that program.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. And so I felt really fortunate to get to do that work.
Yeah.
And I give great credit to USI in that when I was there, like we had to be the stage manager, we had to do the costumes, we had to build the sets, we had to do all of the things. I did have a couple opportunities in college to do some acting, but it was not where I wanted to be. I loved doing it, but it wasn't my favorite part.
Talk about the role of a stage manager. A lot of people just see that name on a program and they're like, whatever. Yeah, they pull the curtain open, right? And I never had any idea what a stage manager does until we were doing the really big show for Arc of Evansville, and we had Lisa Collins and Rick Hobbs were our stage managers.
Yeah.
And it is work. Dana Taylor, they had to draw these, they had like blueprints and things like that. So kind of walk through, let's say you're going to do Oklahoma or something everybody knows. So when do you start working versus when do the actors?
So I start working way ahead of time. You know, typically when I'm doing a musical, I'll figure out what the musical is, and then I'll start listening to that music constantly so I can know the music backwards and forwards again, because my role as the stage manager is to know all the different parts. When I work with students, they always go, "What do you really do?" And I said, well, my role as the stage manager is to make the vision of the director come to life on stage once it's been directed. And so anytime that anything happens on stage, anything that moves, any lights that changes, any set that moves, any of those things, that all happens because I say so.
And in a 2.5, 3-hour production, that's a lot of calls, a lot of decisions that have to all come in order at the right time. I can't miss a cue or anything like that.
I've got to do it all right. I've got to make sure that all my timing is correct. And so I have the score with me. I have a score in my script. And so if sometimes it happens on the 4th beat of the 3rd measure. And so I have to know the music that well to be able to know when to call the cue. And when in Titanic, for example, I had 224 cues to call, and that's sound, lights, and projections. So yeah.
And then you went from college. You said you did this professionally. You toured
I
around and that kind
I
of stuff.
did. I traveled all over the country. I worked in San Antonio, Texas. I worked in Galveston, Texas. I went on tour with a children's theater group. Traveled all across the Midwest in that environment. And then I was in New York for a couple of years, and I did it in New York. Did some off-Broadway stuff in New York. And
so when you're
that
the
kind of thing.
stage manager, are you connected to a production or a theater? Like, okay, if we go to the Winter Garden, then Tiffany Ball is the manager. How does that
That's
work?
typically not the case. Typically, a stage manager is hired per show, per production type. So, sometimes a stage manager will go with a different show sometimes. But sometimes it depends on what the stage manager's job is within the context of that show. In a play, it's very different than what it is in a musical.
Yeah.
In an opera, it's very different than it is in, all the different things. So it's just a lot of different ways that a stage manager does their work.
What's your preference? Like, if you could do either a play, a musical, or an opera, what would you choose?
Probably a musical.
Yeah?
Because I understand them. I understand all of this. Like, I've also done ballet, and that's also a very different world. But musicals are my niche.
So when you're in New York, are you living in the little, apartment over the subway tracks and, going paycheck to paycheck, or how was it for you?
It was great. I loved being there. I did kind of live paycheck to paycheck. I lived on 83rd between Broadway and Amsterdam on the Upper West Side of town. So I had a single room, and I shared the bathroom and shared the kitchen, and only had access to certain parts of the apartment at certain times. And
what was the first show that you stage managed then?
It was a show called A Vow. It was a new play being done, and I was the assistant stage manager, and it was really kind of special. It was a really special time for me. I have a big poster of it in my basement.
Do you feel a lot of pressure, though? I mean, that's kind of like going to bat in the big leagues, like you've been playing, not little league, but you know what I mean. And
Right,
all
no,
of a
for
sudden,
sure.
That's like the top.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It was a new work, so it was being workshopped a lot. So there were a lot of opportunities to embrace new ideas within the context of the show, and so it was just a special thing for me. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So then you came back to Evansville.
I did.
Everybody comes back to Evansville, don't we? I mean, no matter how far you go, the magnetism pulls you back in.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you came back, then kind of walk us through that part of it, getting kind of involved in the community, and then obviously the summer musical with the EVSC or various groups.
Yeah, for sure. So I came back to have a family. I at the time was married, and I got pregnant and had my son Jacob, who I think we'll probably talk about.
Yes.
And I started working for different groups. I worked for the county clerk's office. I worked with Carol McClintock as a realtor assistant and those kinds of things. And then I started working for Leadership. It's Leadership Everyone now. It was Leadership Evansville at the time, and I did 3 years with them, and that was really eye-opening to me to learn about how to be a positive leader in our community. And so Lynn Miller P, she really instilled in me like the way to push the envelope just a little bit. And then I had an opportunity to start working for the school corporation, and the year before that, my oldest son. His name's Reagan Ball. He wanted to do the summer musical, and so that's how I kind of got my foot in the summer musical. My mom was the director, my dad was the producer, and had been for a very long time. And
they started the thing, didn't they?
My dad started
way
it.
back. Yeah, Jack did.
38
way
years
back.
ago. Yeah.
Okay.
And so when they said we need somebody to come and help us, I was like, I might know how to do that. So I went in and I helped, and I just finished my 18th summer musical. So
what's it like working professionally for your parents?
It's interesting.
More pressure than Broadway?
Yeah, probably. Because there's a fine line you have to have. My mom, she's my best friend in the world, and I treasure that. But the fact is like when there's time to work and there's time to play, and we understood those rules. She was also one of my teachers when I was in college. She was the Mid-America Singers director, and I was in Mid-America Singers. So we had that opposite kind of roles.
Right.
So yeah, it was good.
Okay, so you said you did 18 of the musicals, and so after doing it with your folks, kind of in charge there, and then I believe Jack retired from it, or
He did
I'm trying to think of
retire.
the timeline here.
He retired
And
in 2007, 8.
I think, yeah, it was
It
a
was,
while back because they
yeah,
made a big stink about
they
it,
did
as
make,
they should. I mean,
absolutely,
he was
absolutely.
bigger than life, and then
Yes.
your mom hung in there, Sue Schreiber, for several more years.
She did. She went to 26. She did. She produced 20. Directed 26 musicals. She always had said that she was going to do 25 of them, and then her grandson decided he needed to do one more. So
Okay,
she did 26.
just to get that in
just
there.
to get him through the process.
And
Yeah.
and here you are. So you're raising, I guess at the time, younger children because you have Reagan and then Jacob.
Jacob. Yep.
And yet you're running this summer show, which must
Yes.
be it's a very compressed schedule, isn't it?
Well, it's about 6 weeks. It in the past it has been 6 weeks through the summer. We usually started the first week of June and went through the second week of July, and so it took up a lot of time. And my and Brian, he would take care of Jacob, and Reagan would always just come with me to rehearsals. So, but it took up a lot of time. It was a lot of effort, but we made it happen.
What drove you to keep doing it? Like, I mean, there must have been nights you went out of the auditorium or wherever you were with your hair on fire because you're dealing with young. I mean, they're trying to reach that professional standard, but they're high school students, and
Yes.
maybe a little wiggly and a little distractible at times. So how do you rein them in?
I always go back because it's about the education that we can give the kids, right? So I would there were frustrating moments, and I would just be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. And then something would happen, and like I would have a great moment with a kid, teaching them about something, and then it seemed to be okay.
Yeah.
But there were also moments when, things when we got to showtime and somebody said, that was really cool when that one thing happened, and I thought, okay, this is why I
It made
do
it
what I
worth
do.
it.
Right.
I was in a handful of productions in high school, and I think in every one of them, at some point, the director stormed out.
Yes.
It's like, well, are they coming back? I don't know. And we all sat there. But in looking back, I would have probably just, I don't know what I would have done. And I think they were fully within that. But as you said, the memories that you create and the experience, because some of the students will go on to go into show business in one form or another.
For sure. Like we have many students who have grown up through this program who have done this, who are now doing this professionally. One of them is Matt Kilgore. He was in White Christmas all over the country and world really. And then now he's the tailor for Drew Barrymore. Like any clothes that you see Drew Barrymore wear, he's touched and tailored to fit her.
And you can say, I remember him when.
Well,
right?
yeah. And anytime we go to New York, we always see him and we connect with him. And Ryan Michael Hunt, he's done a lot of this. He's been doing this a long time. And there are a lot of kids that have gone through this program that have grown up to be professional actors or technicians, as it were.
Well, let's circle around and talk about your family a little bit.
Sure.
And Jacob and Reagan. So kind of just talk about that. Where were we when you started your family, and how did that go?
Sure. So Reagan I'm married into Reagan. Reagan is my stepson, but he's as much mine as he's anybody's. And he just turned 30 and he's living in Colorado and having his best time. My youngest son, his name was Jacob, and Jacob was born in 2001. He was born with a double congenital heart disease. And so when he was born, our lives really changed considerably because it took a lot of work and a lot of time and to take care of him. He was in doctor's appointments and all these things a lot. So, but we pushed through and we made it to do the thing, right? And so Jacob, he was great. He never knew a sad moment. He was always very happy. And then in 2013, Jacob passed away from a whole series of things. But over a period of time, he had epilepsy and he had strokes and all these different things. And so that's who Jacob was to us. And so when he passed away in 2013, we decided to create the Jacob All Wish Fund. And when we did that because, when a child passes away, it's a very hard road. And I didn't. We had two choices. We could either go down this sad road, or we can continue to share the joy that Jacob brought to us to other people in our city and in our community. And so that's what we decided to do. So we created the Jacob All Wish Fund. And so when we did that, our lives kind of changed a little bit. And when Jacob passed away, our lives changed considerably because it just changed the way that you handle yourself. It changes the way that you do life, right? And so we did. And in October of that year, Reagan was a senior in high school, and he had to do a service learning project for school, and for his English class or something. And he said, "I want to raise money for the Wish Fund." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool. How do you want?" He said, "I want to do a show." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know how to do that."
He'd never heard of car washes or bake sales, right?
Right. Well, and the fact is like, when people do car washes and they do bake sales and they do all these things. The Schreibers, we do theater. That's just what we know how to do.
Let's put on a show.
Right. Let's just put on a show. So that's what we did. And a very dear friend of ours, Landon, had just come back from doing theater, and he said, "Well, let's just do this. Let's do Last 5 Years." That's what the show is called. And it's a show about, it's got two people. It's about their relationship how it comes together and goes apart again. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to figure it out. And so one thing led to another, and we did it. And Reagan, and he had a partner. His partner was Claire, right? And they produced it, and my mom directed it, and we did it. And they raised like $6,000 for the Wish Fund.
That's a lot more than the usual car wash.
Right, for sure.
And more meaningful, too. It's an experience where
Yeah.
you go and you see this thing, but then now you're kind of expected to, what are you going to do next year?
Well, that's the thing. So I thought it was a one and done deal.
Oh, right.
Like, and we went on a radio show, and they were like, "Is this the first annual?" I was like, "No." And they was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever." And here we are getting ready to start our 14th Jacob show. So we feel really fortunate about that. And we've raised a lot of money to support, and we do one every fall in October. And we've raised a lot of money, and we support special education in our schools and in our community.
Yeah.
And it just, you go in and you watch kids that or teachers or all those things that have gotten money from our Wish Fund. And the joy that's on those teachers' faces and the joy that's on the kids' faces is just really powerful. And, when I'm doing the Wish Fund shows, it's really, I struggle sometimes because it's really hard because we don't pay anybody to participate. There's no,
right.
So it's not like we're getting paid to do the work that we do. But then also, it's just a lot of work, because it's just me and my friends doing a show. But then I think then typically during the Wish Fund, I'll get some kind of a letter from a wish that we've funded, and I'm like, oh wait, this is why we do this.
Yeah,
this is why.
And Jacob's spirit lives on, and of course
Absolutely.
his name is within that. And,
Absolutely.
And what a wonderful tribute. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a gift, really.
When we call that group of people, we call them the Jacob family, because that's just it's a different group of people. We're all very protective of what that is and how that cultivates and how that's created. And every time somebody new comes in, we talk about how we've created this unit. And so, it's just it's a great group of people, and we work really, really hard, but we have a really good time doing it.
What is the show this year, and when does it occur?
So the other thing that I should talk about is that we also have another entity within the Wish Fund now, so we'll talk about that too.
I saw that too. Yeah, I'm trying to
kind of pull it. Yeah, right, for sure.
Okay, we can come back around to when the show's going to be. So talk about the new entity in there.
So
is this the Junie B. Jones group that I read about? Okay.
Yeah, right.
Or they did Junie B. Jones.
Yes, we just did Junie B. Jones. Last August, we started the Jacob Theater and Academy.
Right.
That is, it's professional theater and children's educational opportunities. So last August, we did our first show. And then we did a show in December last year, and then we did in May of this year, we did the Fantastics, and then we've just started our second season, and we're super excited. And it's an educational opportunity because we do classes for adults, teens, and young people, young little kids.
Right.
So we feel like, and it's a really great opportunity to showcase what we do. My very dear friend Robert Hunt, who comes to us from Chicago, he was a Broadway actor for many, many years, and he comes and he directs our summer musical and he directs our Jacob shows. And he and I kind of have had this dream for a while, and for whatever reason, last year we decided if you're going to do it, you just got to do
right.
it.
That's right. You can't. You talk about it only so long.
You can only talk about it for so long,
Yeah.
and finally you just have to do it.
So, are you like just full-time theater then now, or do you have a job?
I do have a job.
What do you actually do?
I work for the school
I
corporation.
knew that. Yeah.
I manage all the fine arts programs within
Okay.
our district. So
Okay.
manage the band, orchestra, choir, and theater
Right.
programs within our district. All the honors.
We kind of
programs.
toss that off like that's nothing. Oh yeah, you do that. That's
Yeah.
a huge thing. So
It is
now
a
you're
huge
talking
thing.
band competitions and
All the
and
marching
going to
band
state-
competitions.
Oh my
yeah.
lord.
So.
You really never find the easy job. Do you?
Well, if somebody said to me the other day, "What do you do on your time off?" I was like, "Well, I don't really have that." And
Yeah,
they said,
there's
"What do you?"
yeah, what
I was
is
like,
that?
"The fact is like I don't know how to not be doing something."
Right.
And I get that from my dad.
Mhm.
My dad, he was very active. He always liked to be doing things, always liked to be involved in everything. And so I just, I feel like if I can help somebody do something, or if I can encourage somebody to be stronger, better person, I'm going to do that. And that's what I've decided to do with my life.
This is exciting and very interesting too, because of course, I trolled you on Facebook.
For sure.
We're friends on Facebook, so I
Right.
kind of know what's going on. But then I read about this Jacob the theater.
Jacob Theater and Academy.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I thought, wow, how does she do that too?
Yeah.
So now we know.
Now we-
You don't sleep. You don't actually sleep.
No, I take a nap periodically.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I guess then your schedule's completely full, right? I mean, there's not
It-
one
it-
other thing you can put in there.
It is pretty full. My mom and I travel some, just because we like to do that. We like to go to New York. We do that twice a year. But other than that, I'm kind of just always with some kids. Somebody was talking yesterday about having nieces and nephews, and I said I don't have any of those, but I have hundreds and hundreds of kids.
Thousands and thousands of them.
So yeah.
You got to be a trooper, in
Yeah.
the theater sense to do that much and,
Yeah.
and give so much back to
And
the
I just feel
community.
passionate about what it does for kids and what it does for our community to have good theater. And Warwick County's opening their summer musical tonight, or I guess they opened last night.
Yeah.
And what a
We're
great.
recording this in July, by the way. So
Oh,
if
right.
somebody, if they listen, they're like,
I'm
"Oh,
sorry.
is it?" No, it's all right. just so they know.
Yeah.
So you all know. Okay.
What a great opportunity for kids. And our summer musical, we did it very differently this year. So ours ended at the second week of
Yep.
June, and
I was going to ask about that because it used to be at the ONB Plaza, the Vandenberg Auditorium, what have you, the big hall.
yeah.
And the last couple of years, it's been at Shanklin Theater at U of E, much smaller venue, but maybe offers something that the big hall doesn't. So what motivated that move, and how did it work out for everybody?
Yeah, so we've been talking a long time about how to recreate the summer musical to be a more student-centered program within the program itself. Not that it wasn't before, but we just trying to figure out a way to make it more educationally centered around the student. And so we decided that we would just kind of change the trajectory, like big time change the trajectory of what it was. So last December we had what we called a coming together weekend, kind of, and anybody that came to that weekend was eligible to be a part of the summer program. Didn't matter if you could, what you wanted to do, how you wanted to be involved, and so they all just came. And then and after that weekend, that's when we decided what show, based on the kids that we had that came in December, we decided what show we were going to do. And so then we had another weekend in January, and that's when we told the kids what the show was going to do, what the show would be, and then we just started doing the staging, and then we had 3 more subsequent weekends, one in March, one in April, and then one in May. And that was Friday night, Saturday, most of the day, and most of the day on Sunday.
And those are rehearsals
Those
then?
are rehearsal
Okay.
weekends. They were also educational weekends
Yeah.
because not only were they learning staging and music for the show, but they were also learning like how to warm up to do a musical, how to be mentally ready to do a show.
Yeah.
What are the things that just what an actor needs to do the work that they need to do. So it was as much an educational opportunity as it was rehearsals. It was very much rehearsals too, but
Yeah.
there were other opportunities. And then June 1st, we moved into Shanklin Theater, and 95% of the show that happened on stage, they learned in 2 weeks, in 8 days, really.
Wow.
And then we performed for 4 days,
Yeah.
and it was pretty spectacular. The kids, talking to the kids about it, they loved it because when they were learning this stuff, particularly in those 2 weeks, they learned it and they immediately put it into practice, as opposed to in the past when it's 6 weeks, it was like they learned it and then maybe a week or two later our rehearsals.
Right.
In this instance, we were doing 8-hour rehearsals. So it was 10 to 6, Monday through Saturday. And, we were doing all the things.
That's pretty rigorous.
It was.
That's a special,
And it's
person to
modeled
do that.
off of modeled after the professional summer stock experience, which Robert and I both have had and really enjoy and have fond memories of.
Yeah.
And so we just felt like, if we're going to do it, let's just do it, some very different kind of way. And the kids really seemed to love it. The production team really seemed to enjoy it. And it just felt right. It felt really special.
And you didn't get to flood Shanklin Theater. Of course, I didn't get to go. I had to work. My wife went and said it was wonderful. I said, now how far up did the water go? I'm a Weisenheimer. She, didn't.
We did not get to
No,
flood
I
Shanklin
know you
Theater.
didn't, but
I'm sorry.
maybe next year.
Maybe
right?
next time.
Titanic too.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Well, that's so exciting and interesting too. And it sounds like when you moved out of the big barn, so to speak, it probably forces a little more intimacy. And plus, you said hands-on. You're building the sets and doing all that.
Yeah, so when we decided to do it, we decided that any kid that was going to come and was going to learn how to build the sets and do the costumes and do all the things. And so if they were not in rehearsal with us, they were in the scene shop learning how to screw in a nail or hammer, those kinds of things. Or they were in the costume shop helping tailor the costumes that have come to us from New York. And so it was really cool to watch them, have a ownership in some of those things that they maybe didn't have before, because we called it the Summer Musical Company this year, so that it felt like a unit as opposed to a 3 different entities, because it's always the cast and the crew and the orchestra, and there's 3 different groups of them. But in this instance, they were all one unit doing it together.
That's great.
Yeah.
And
And at the beginning of the show, so the orchestra, this was a whole different thing. The orchestra was in a whole separate space. They weren't in this on stage with us. They were in a different room. And so when that happens, you have to figure out a way to, so that kids can see the conductor and all
right.
those things. And so at the beginning of the show, Robert brought the orchestra out onto stage and introduced them and said, "This is the orchestra." And so many people have said, "I'm so glad you did that, because if you hadn't, we would have thought it was like tracks."
Yeah,
because
right.
nobody
Just
knew.
Piped in from somewhere.
Right. So we feel really fortunate that we had great kids and great staff to make that all happen.
All right. And when can we see the?
So Come From Away.
Yeah. Come From Away is when?
Come From Away is October 16th and 17th.
Okay, so we got some time here.
Yep. And then before that, the Jacob Theater and Academy is doing Crimes of the Heart, August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
Okay.
And then we do the Wish Fund show.
Yes.
And then in December we'll do A Wonderful Life. And and then in January we'll do Hadestown, the teen edition for high school students, and then we're gonna do Baby, the musical again in May.
So your book's solid. Basically, your book's solid.
Well, and
somewhere in there will be the state band competition and
when
the
I'll do
choral
all those,
stuff in
the choral
spring,
festivals
right.
and all those things too, yeah, so.
Well, I feel guilty now for having you in here for half an hour.
No,
I mean,
it's
this
all
is
great.
valuable time.
I'm so glad to have to come.
Okay. Tiffany, thanks so much for filling us in on everything going on with, I'm going to say youth theater, even though it's much more than that.
Sure.
But we'll kind of pigeonhole it that
That's
way.
great, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed it. If you'd like to listen to all of our Inside Look podcasts, you can do that wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch on the 14 News YouTube channel. With Tiffany Ball, I'm Jeff Lyons. Thanks for joining.